There we go. So here's where we start looking for an optimal retest. And so an optimal retest for me has to tick two things, right? It needs to be at least 2 candles, right? So at least, let me just type this down, at least 2 candles, right? It has to be at least 2 candles. Let me put that bigger. And the second thing is it needs to come into at least 50% of the zone, right? So at least 50% of the zone. At least 50% of the zone. Now, the trick with this is what you want to understand is that here we had more than 2 candles, right? So we had 1, 2, 3. And what we can see here is price engulfs the entire level. So it's at least 50% and it's at least 2 candles. Quick note, if price comes outside with a wick, that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to show you why that's perfectly fine in the next step. But for the sake of the optimal retest, this is a 5 out of 5 optimal retest, right? So if we go to our SOP over here, what you'll see is we had a break line, which was 5. We have a quality pullback into the level that's also 5. So right now we're, 5 and 5, which is pretty good. This is why it's an A+ setup, right? A+ setups come from good processes. Good processes can be measured, and measured processes helps you get results. It's that simple. And this is how you kind of refine and iterate over time, because when you journal, if you actually have data-backed decision making, it's a lot easier to journal because you can just look at the numbers and say this setup was 15 out of 20, this setup was 20 out of 20. What was the difference? Oh, okay, this and this. Okay, so another thing here, right? So let's just take a look at where we are now, because my system is very simple, and I want you to understand how simple the system is. Yes, you need to get good at levels and volume and all this stuff, but when it comes to execution, it's very simple if you follow the process. So what we see here is we have our break line. Now, remember I told you about break line? This is where break line becomes very important, because we have a break, we have an optimal retest coming in the zone, and in this region inside the level we actually move on to step 3, which is L. This is where the order flow comes in, right? So what I often say is that if you don't do the L will get you, right? You have to look at the liquidity and where it is being absorbed. This is the most important thing. So liquidity absorption step 3 is evidence of opposing orders being absorbed, right? This is where most traders go wrong, and they don't need to. So let me quickly break this down. Why did I go long? So here was my execution. So I went long, and this was my execution here. So let's really break this down step by step, right? I've got a lot to say about this, so let's break this down. Now, if we go to the charts and we actually get both of them up next to each other, let's make this big screen. Here we are. We have the same exact key level, but now I'm going to be breaking down my thought process, my pattern, right? What I was thinking.